I always say that brand, I'm not telling you who you are. I'm just helping you articulate that and bring it to the world in a better way.
So what is brand?
This is the issue, and this is why you see run clubs popping up.
I was going to literally use the example of Pure Sports. What mistakes have you seen brand owners make?
The biggest mistake I see is, I'm a bit biased, but brand is central to every single bit of business.
Really?
Yeah, for B2B, it's a time to differentiate, and it's probably the single biggest opportunity that I see at the moment. Dream brand I want to work on, it would probably be somebody like...
How important is building a community for a brand?
Slightly controversial. If you are a small to medium-sized business, community is definitely not your focus.
Hello, and welcome back to a kind of like mini pod. Let's call it like a mini pod, a mini interjecting little bit of info with the kind of the guy behind Getting to Grow, really. So Mark, hi.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
Of course, thank you for having me.
If any of you listening have been to some of my events or seen on LinkedIn, which we're both quite vocal on actually, Mark Allen is the man behind Lunchbox and also the man behind Getting to Grow, which is the brand and everything to do with the brand. So these are my gorgeous little coasters. And yeah, my surname is Fox, as obviously you know, and he made the Fox, made it kind of like to look up, give it that kind of look and feel. And I'm going to go into all things branding with Mark and just how to stand out, what to do differently, what it even means. But firstly, talk to me about Getting to Grow, because we've obviously debriefed it now, like we'll post it, but like, what was it like doing the process? Am I irritating to work with? Probably. But also more about how did you take what I had as my previous brand and make it what it is now?
So I think firstly, it needed the update. And I think that you needed a brand that matched the quality of your podcasts. So that was the biggest sort of factor that we used to basically assign all decisions against. Like, is this high quality? Is it understated, but also quite overt? And can we make sure that it stands out? So essentially what we wanted to do is create you an icon. So something that we do at Lunchbox is we really, really focus on brand assets. So we break down every component of your brand, from your logo, your color palette, your typography, and your icons. Now, what we wanted to do with Getting to Grow was have an icon that could be as iconic as you have the potential to be. And you will be, of course.
Thank you.
So that's the Fox. And we wanted that hand-drawn element because it was very human and it felt very down-to-earth, very relatable. So I have a fantastic designer called Yaz.
Yeah,
Shout out
she
to
is
Yaz.
great.
Fantastic. Great attitude as well and just brilliant at what she does. Anyway, so she worked through a lot of designs, as we saw. There was plenty of iterations. And it was good to collaborate and work with you because I think that was also super important, was making sure that it felt like you had a huge voice in that brand.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it is you.
And we did. I remember I was in South Africa at the time and we were FaceTiming and you were in Bali and I was like, can we just, change this, move this around? So there was probably about, 3 or 4 iterations?
I'd say so, yeah. And I think it was, by the end, it was more obviously tweaks. I think we definitely went through a few rounds of changes, but I think we got to a solution quite quickly, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't luck, like, as you said, Yaz is pretty sick of what she does. So I was like, this is absolutely ideal. Like, I couldn't have envisioned it, but it was just there. And she really understood it. And yeah, I absolutely love it. It's like, it's pretty iconic now. And red is very important to me. I'm a redhead, I'm feisty, etc. So red was like a big part of what I wanted to bring out in it. So tell me more about Lunchbox. Where did the idea come from and how did it get to kind of, I guess, where it is before? Actually, tell me what you were doing before as well. So like talk to me journey pre-Lunchbox to like now.
Of course. So I left University of East Anglia, and I secured an internship at an agency called Fitch. Now, Fitch is no longer, it's been dissolved into a larger agency called Landor, but Fitch were the pioneers of experience design and did a lot around brand also. So what was great about Fitch was they had this mentality that if you're good enough, you're old enough. So from day dot, I was chucked in rooms with like C-suite stakeholders of these like multinational companies. And that really expedited my growth. I didn't really have a choice but to kind of get stuck in. So I started there. I ascended up the ranks really quickly because of that ethos. And I have a very much like a get on with it mentality. So I was rubbing my hands and going, come on then, let's go. And did that for about 2 years before the merger with Landor. And the Landor merger was great because where we'd sort of teetered on the edge of brand, Landor were the global brand consultancy, the biggest in the world. So I started to really hone my skills further away from experience design and into brand design. So we did that for another 2 years. I had some great clients. I was super lucky to work on people like Lego, Adidas, Tommy Hilfiger, TK Maxx, like huge names.
Amazing.
It was fantastic. And again,
Getting
because...
to grow now.
Getting to grow.
Up there with the likes of Tommy H.
Yeah, they'll be in amongst it in a few years. But yeah, so that was fantastic. I moved to NatWest, so obviously very, very different.
Yeah,
very,
super
very
different.
corporate. But they wanted me in the innovation department. So going from good ideas and good concepts we brought to life into implementing new products, new services into the real world. So it was a cool step.
Really fun. I didn't even know that was parts of a bank.
There's so much in the world of sort of experience design, brand design, innovation design that no one really hears about, and they only ever see the end product. But yeah, this super focused on like green initiatives, doing better. But it just wasn't for me. The pace was too slow. Huge budgets, huge potential, but it'd be years and years before things got to market. So left that, went into the freelance world. So sort of dipped back into my old life, but still had the mobility to travel, pick the projects I wanted to work on. And yeah, did that for about a year whilst living in Bali, which was, I don't shut up about it. So if you hear it more and more, you're going to get annoyed. And then I started Lunchbox. So it moved from freelancing and going into agencies. And I just thought, why don't I just do the whole process myself? I've essentially curated this huge black book of world-leading talent that I've picked up along the way from agencies. Why wouldn't I just do the full project and have control, creative control, strategic control, and then move on to my great designers and just do good work and cut out the middleman, basically.
So your talent that you have within Lunchbox are, insane. They've got their experience is amazing, just kind of like without the big hefty price tag.
Precisely. So one of the big problems with big agencies is, of course, the quality's great, but you think you're getting the C-suite level people, but you're not. You're getting the seniors, the mids, but what you're paying for is everyone's salary. You're also paying for the HR costs, you're paying for pensions, you're paying for the premises, the offices, everything like that. So you get hugely inflated prices, but you still get the same quality work. So that's why Lunchbox is great, because we cut all of that sort of fat around it, keep it lean, but keep the quality super high. So it's a really cool model. So we talk about ourselves being an agency, but we're probably more of like a creative collective, like a hive mind of just top class talent. Yeah.
So there's no point me asking my next question then, which was what differentiates you, because that differentiates you, right? Like I don't know many other kind of creative agencies that have that talent, not the price tag, but have the whole process and make it really seamless and give your customers like some very, very high outputs.
Precisely. And I think also one thing that we love doing is making sure that it's super collaborative. So I think a lot of agencies, they take on a brief, run away with it, and then come back with this big ta-da moment where actually you get to a lot stronger proposition a lot quicker by constant check-ins and constant collaboration. I always say that brand, I'm not telling you who you are. Like, I'm not making it up for you. I'm just helping you articulate that and bring it to the world in a better way.
So what is brand?
So brand is essentially the collective perception that the world has of your organisation.
So it's how you show up.
It's how you show up. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room and you can't talk about yourself. It's, for instance, if I walk away from this podcast, it's what you would say to your friend, to your family, to whoever.
I've never thought about it like that. You're right. It's personal brand then as well. Like that has a big impact on so much stuff. And what's the difference between a brand strategy and then a brand identity?
Yeah, so this is quite a common problem that we see. So brand strategy is essentially making sure that the path and the direction that you're going is almost signposted and you've got the right place to be. So it's almost like a map that's going to get you to an end goal. Now, your brand identity is the way you show up from a creative point of view. So another way to break it down is almost like a human. So brand strategy is defining who you are as a human, defining kind of how you speak, defining like what you want to stand for, your values, the impact you want to leave on the world. Brand identity is then going, okay, cool, well, how do I want to dress? Like, what colours do I like? What areas do I want to sort of live and exist in so that you're shaping those perceptions? Like, do I want to wear a funky fedora or do I want to wear just a cap? Like, what is my style? Like, who am I? And just as you know in the world, there's a variety of different people with different styles, different stories, and they all have their own individual place in your mind. It's exactly the same with brands.
Interesting. I guess it's also, yeah, like maybe as well what you have to what you want. So like brand strategy for me now at this point would be how do I then like, yeah, continue to put my brand out there? Where do I want it to go? And brand identity is the whole leaving the room. What are people saying about me?
Yeah, precisely. And I think also it's, say you want to launch this internationally, which this absolutely has the potential to do.
Fly
How
around
do
the
you do
world
that?
interviewing founders. Yeah, how do I do it?
How do you do that? Exactly. Well, that's the brand strategy side. So you need to analyze the market, analyze your new competitors, the context of the countries in which you're existing, analyze your current sort of state of play. Is it fit for purpose or do you need to change? And it's coming up with those sort of high level but super integral ideas and conceptions that we can then activate creatively so you have as much impact in the market as possible.
How do you balance the two disciplines of brand marketing and performance marketing? Is it one or the other?
It's a big debate going on at the moment, and what we found is it's both. So one isn't superior to the other, but they perform different tasks. So again, to basically have an analogy,
I'm thinking about exercise and like running and strength training, like to being like the cardio versus the weight. You need them both in order to like your end result to be like lean and get everything you need from exercising and eating well, or exercising and eating well. You can't do one without the other.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy.
What was yours?
So my analogy is...
Sorry, I like to do that.
No,
I need to not do that.
I like that. I might actually use that. I'm going to try and adapt that and mould that.
Yeah, that was just bleh, but you do it better.
So the way that I like to talk about performance versus brand. So if you have a field of apples, performance marketing is essentially going to those apples that are ripe and ready to be plucked and taking them off the tree. So then you harvest them. So that's things like your Facebook ads, that's like making sure when you're ready to buy, you put it to your basket, all that kind of good stuff. Now, what brand marketing does is it goes into other fertile grounds and plants more seeds. So you get more trees, more apples, the pool is bigger. So that when all of these apples come to be ripe, performance marketing and or the harvesters have a huge field to go and collect this ridiculous amount of apples. And that's the whole point. Brand is that long-term vision and performance marketing is that short-term quick gains.
I wouldn't have thought about it like that. I mean, I've not got a marketing brain on me at all. So, but that's really interesting actually, because you need that reactive, quick, TikTok-y stuff, but then you need the stuff that's longer term, the strategy. Where's it got? Yeah, that kind of like bigger piece. What mistakes have you seen brand owners make?
The biggest mistake I see is they design their whole business around themselves and their perception of the product or service that they offer. So for instance, they might get super wrapped up in like the scientific element behind their product and they get really, really proud of, the process and where it's come from. But what they fail to realize is that people in the market, 99.999% of the time, they're not thinking about your brand. They're thinking about their relationships, their lives, their hobbies, their fears, all this kind of stuff. So when you're putting all these messages into the world that you think are important, chances are the market doesn't care. The market does not find it important. So that's why it's important to make sure you listen to your audience, understand like the space in which you can play, so based on your competitors, and just fine tune and sharpen your messages so that you're not speaking to yourself, but you're speaking to the broad audience. And I think that's the biggest mistake. They go too much into the detail, talk about the wrong things, and sometimes miss really, really important sort of purchasing criteria that the market have because they're impressioning their own nuances and their own preferences rather than the market's.
You need like a bigger pool of people to kind of gain and bounce ideas off, because actually otherwise, you're one person, your sample size one isn't always going to be everybody's thoughts and feelings towards something.
Exactly.
How important is building a community for a brand?
Slightly controversial, but when you look at the data, if you are a small to medium-sized business, community is definitely not your focus. So when you want to grow... Really? Yeah.
See, I would have said the complete opposite. I would have said that if you're small, you need that tribe that's like pioneering you, telling you other people about you, word of mouth, getting you out there, supporting you, buying your products. When you're big, Coca-Cola doesn't need a bloody tribe.
So that is the common perception.
Okay.
But if you're looking at growth and increasing profit, revenue, and you want to just get as large as possible, you think of it slightly differently. So if I'm a super loyal customer and you really focus on my benefits and what I need and overinvest, I might buy 20% more from you. So you only get a 20% uplift in revenue. And say your pool is, 10 people that are your most loyal. 90% of the market doesn't even know who you are yet if you're a small or medium business. So therefore, if you get new buyers in and light buyers in, their uplift in revenue is 100%. So suddenly you've got this whole new pool of new customers coming in that will far outweigh the 20% uplift you'll get from your existing customers. Because they're going to buy anyway, because they're already sold into the vision. But it's the light and the non-buyers that you really need to focus on.
Gosh, yeah, that is such a good way to look at it. I would have never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and this is the issue, and this is why you see run clubs popping up.
I was going to literally use the example of Pure Sports, as I do tend to quite a lot on this podcast. Like, I've never seen such community that they've built like that. Like, it is phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
Maybe it's a London-centric thing, though. Like, I don't know whether if I asked the average Joe in Manchester if he knew about Pure Sport, although they are, like, doing lots of podcasts. Yeah. Podcasts is what I do. They are building lots of run clubs around the country, but yeah, I mean,
the thing with Pure Sport and the reason it works is because it's so core to their brand. It's a truth. It makes so much sense that it comes from the core of their brand. The problem is when you do these community activations or stretch too far and it doesn't really link or tie into a core like product or brand truth. Pure Sport is exactly that. It's performance, it's pushing people, it's trying to include new people to get to new heights. A run club makes sense. So therefore, it's not a huge marketing expenditure, I wouldn't imagine, and it's a good add-on. But I think when we talk about like community, it can be a huge investment. And as I said, it's just sometimes not the best for a lot of brands. I'm not saying if there's not something good you want to do for your existing fans, do it. That's fantastic. But if you're looking to grow, first have a look at the people that aren't buying your product.
Yeah. And are there certain industries that need to focus on brand more than others?
I'm a bit biased, but brand is central to every single bit of business. There are industries that have a better opportunity than others, though. So in B2C, having a fantastic brand is table stakes. You have to. Nowadays, the customer is smarter. They've experienced a lot of a higher detail of design where it's a bit desensitized now. However, in B2B businesses, so we're talking investment firms, insurance firms, banks, there's a huge opportunity because that perception and the market is probably about 30 years behind. But you still need those cues of trust, of expertise, recognition, quality. So there's a massive opportunity for B2B brands to really differentiate. So it's as important for both industries, but I do believe that for B2C, it's table stakes and you have to do it to compete and evolve. For B2B, it's a time to differentiate. And it's probably the single biggest opportunity that I see at the moment.
Is that where you're going to be focusing some efforts?
We're agnostic of category. We've got, as I said, extensive experience through the Black book that we've built up. But B2B is an interesting space where you can create a lot of noise. So we're definitely looking to partner with like-minded industries. Yeah.
And dream brand you want to work on?
Dream brand I want to work on. Fantastic question. I think it would probably be somebody like Reebok. And it's a slightly peculiar one, but they're a huge global brand that have the potential to sort of reignite everyone's passion for it. They've done little bits and bobs. The Reebok Classic product sort of had a little bit here and there. But I think the idea of taking an archaic historical brand and like restoring them to glory, stealing market share, making them relevant again is super exciting. If you look at New Balance.
Yeah. What are we both wearing today?
Yeah, both rocking them.
New Balance crew.
Shout out New Balance. But how amazing if someone like Puma or Reebok got that level of status again and you're part of like a cultural shift. Something
and
like
trainers are so like cults. People like literally, go to the drops. It's like such a thing. So actually if they could do that, they'd really grow market share quite quickly.
Yeah.
And everyone would be queuing to get there. Like the Sambas. The rebirth of the Adidas Samba, which my dad said he used to like wear his plimsolls to school, and he was like, "Why have you got my school shoes on?" And I was like, just don't get a brand, Dad.
You just don't get it.
You just don't get it.
It's super difficult, but it's really, really interesting to dissect why these things pop back up in the revival. People are quite like cyclical.
Very,
Trends
very.
happen. And one thing that's super exciting, and one thing we're trying to do more at Lunchbox, is spot those next trends. So we're actively on the ground, always out like in the world, trying to spot those little cues, those little identifiers. And we bring that into our work as well. And yeah, if you spot it early enough, you might just have a phenomenon, yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was super insightful. A little kind of 20-minute deep dive into brand marketing and how to get your really brand out there. So for anybody looking to rebrand or want to make some slight changes or want to just have a chat, you must get in touch with Mark from Lunchbox. I will put all the information in the show notes as well. Thank you so much.